All right, welcome in. I'm Brian Edwards of MajorWager.com. This is my UFC 236 rewind. This past Saturday night, State Farm Arena in Atlanta, Georgia. Two thrilling interim title fights as we had Dustin Poirier against reigning featherweight champion Max Blessed Holloway. And Dustin Poirier came out early, was dominant on the feet, landed more than 40 significant strikes in the first 4 minutes of action. One round won by a 10-8 margin on my scorecard. I also gave Dustin round two, as after kind of taking a break, he kind of maybe just not gassed, but he was trying to finish Max the first 3 minutes and had him rocked several times. Anywho, he was kind of taking a break early second round, and Max was, not landing big shots, but was landing, in volume and pushing the pace, etc. But Dustin, got the momentum back in the last 90 seconds, and thanks to some big power shots, I gave him round two. Max started to turn it up. Dustin seemed to be tiring a little bit in the third. I gave Max the third. I also gave him the fourth, although obviously the judges' scorecards gave Dustin the fourth based on this big knee he landed with about a minute and a half left in the fourth that opened a cut over Max right on the forehead area, and which bled profusely the rest of the way. But I had it Dustin up, what would that be, 38-37 going to the fifth. So if Max would have won the fifth, I would have scored it a draw, but I gave Dustin the fifth, and he's our new interim lightweight champion. And it's clear that he will now face Khabib Nurmagomedov, who's on suspension, and that will take place in the fall. Congrats to Dustin. Ever since losing to Conor McGregor at UFC 178, my first round knockout, Dustin is 9-1-1 in 11 fights. And really, the no contest, he was kicking Eddie Alvarez's ass that night. It really should be 10-1 with the only L to Michael Johnson, and he's taken out former champions, a current champion. Look for Max, who did look undersized against Dustin, although Dustin's a big lightweight. Look for Max to go back to featherweight, and I think Frankie Edgar should get the shot at Max's title. They were going to fight. Max got hurt, had to pull out, and Frankie took the Ortega fight because he didn't want to be on the sidelines that long. And then he lost to Ortega. Then he bounced back against Cub Swanson, and he's had a torn bicep, but he's ready to go now. And so I think Frankie should get the next shot at Max. But Max is going to be out a while, got a medical suspension. He can't do any training or sparring for a month or two because of that cut over the eye or the forehead area. So anyway, look for Max to face Frankie. Now, Frankie might get hosed, and it could go to Alex Volkanovski if he beats Jose Aldo down in Rio or down in Brazil. I'm not sure if it's exactly Rio, but down in Brazil here in a few weeks. All right, Adesanya and Gastelum waged what many are calling the fight of the year so far, and indeed it might have been. I think that all three judges had it, and I had it 2-2 going the fifth, and Adesanya was hurt. He was wearing it on his face from some big shots Kelvin had landed specifically in the first and fourth round. And but man, Adesanya dug deep and dominated the fifth. Almost had a submission. Almost knocked Gastelum out. Gastelum was game, really game, the whole way through. But it was 48-46. That's how I had it. A 10-8 round for Adesanya. The last style bender. Great nickname. So he wins, and he'll face, he's the interim middleweight champ now, and he'll face Robert Whittaker over in Australia this fall. Whittaker coming off the abdomen hernia surgery, emergency surgery, when he had to pull out of the Gastelum fight several months back. So we've got Adesanya will face Robert Whittaker to unify the middleweight belts, and Dustin will face Khabib Nurmagomedov. Okay, other fights on the card. Eric Anders, never seen him get dominated the way that Khalil Roundtree did. Khalil Roundtree spent the last few months over in Thailand. It obviously paid off. Best performance of his career as a plus 160 underdog. And I didn't give you the odds on. So Dustin cashed. He was plus 200 back a month or so. And he'd gone down to about plus 160, but then the action came in again late on Holloway, steamed it up. And, if you bet Dustin the night of the fight or once the, main card started, you probably got a plus 180 or plus 190, maybe even a touch better. As for Adesanya, he was about a minus 180 favorite, minus 160, minus 190 neighborhood. Okay, back to Roundtree. He was a plus 160 dog. Anders got it put on him. His other L's that I talked about on the preview video, his other L's were I had scored 2 of those fights for him against Elias Theodoro and against Lyoto Machida. And then the only other loss he had was against Thiago Santos when he moved up a weight class and took it on short notice, had to fly to Brazil in like 8 days notice. And he had to go in a 5-round fight, and he collapsed of exhaustion after round 3. All right, Alan Jouban and Dwight Grant. Dwight Grant won as a slight favorite. That was not very good fight. Nikita Krylov avenged a submission loss to Ovince St. Preux, former Tennessee football player, otherwise known as OSP. OSP had submitted him several years back. Krylov got a second-round submission. That was a push on over-under bets because it was 1.5 rounds. It ended at the 230 mark. Matt Frevola beat Jalen Turner 30-27 across. First UFC win. Alejandro Pantoja beat Wilson Hayes by first-round knockout. Very impressive performance. Probably would have got a performance of the night bonus, but the 2 title fights were so good. They gave both of those fights fight of the night honors and did not give a performance of the night bonus. But Bilal Muhammad beat Curtis Millender as a minus 150-ish favorite. And we're not going to get into the early prelims, but that's a wrap on UFC 236. The promotion's over in Russia this weekend with Mr. Ezekiel Chokes against Alistair Overeem as my man Ezekiel Chokes, because he's the only one to ever. Alexei Olenek is his name, but I call him Ezekiel Chokes because he's the only one in the UFC to ever finish a fight via Ezekiel Chokes. So he's a big underdog. I kind of like him actually against Overeem in the main event over in Russia, UFC on ESPN Plus 7. That is this weekend. This is your UFC 236 Rewind. I'm Brian Edwards of MajorWager.com. Thank you for joining us.